excited to have this an additional seminar in this series. We're already, as Julia was mentioning, we're already close to the end. It's we're already in week 7 of 8. Today we're going to talk about lessons learned, how to sustain participation over decades. We're very happy to have 2 speakers which have a lot of experience in that regard. Just to remind everyone, we have this total series is of 8 weeks. We're now in week 7, second to last, lessons learned. Next week, we will talk about citizen science, to how to use this data to inform hydrological models. We're very excited to have this series, and it's almost sad that it's coming to an end, but if you missed one or several of the previous weeks, as Julia was mentioning, it's all available on YouTube. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker today. It's Sergio Ruiz Cordova. Sergio is the data coordinator at the Alabama Water Watch, and he has been active there in this for the Alabama Water Watch since 1993, which is a really, really long time. I think, yeah, I mean, I hardly had I didn't have my master at that time. So it's a really long time, and during this time, he has held hundreds of workshops, interacted with the community in all different ways, and has a lot of experience from that, of course, how to interact with this with the community. He's also the technical mastermind of the Alabama Water Watch, because I think today's focus is mainly on the how to sustain community, sustain the community relationship, but of course there's also technical aspects behind the scene. And so we are very much looking forward to your talk about how to keep participation high over decades and what kind of pitfalls to avoid. So with that, I hand it over to you.
Are we okay now? Can you hear me? Hey, hello everybody. Thank you for the invitation, and let's flow. Yes, it is important. We think that it's very crucial for volunteer programs to look at indicators to see their program viability and longevity. And in Alabama Water Watch, we have been doing that, looking at, averages by year of training events, data collection, and others. And it's something that probably other programs would like to do, and it will be, applicable to them, although some may use, more sophisticated statistics and to reveal whatever they are doing. Our program, as he was mentioned, we started back in 1992. It's a citizen volunteer water quality monitoring program that covers, most of the rivers and water bodies in the state. Our mission is to improve both water quality, water policy through citizen monitoring and action. And here are some numbers, just quickly, all of this, you can see it in our website, but over the 30 years or so, we have collected over 100,000 water data records from about 2,600 sites in about, 1,000 water bodies, which is kind of interesting since back when we started in 93, basically nobody, gave a penny that in Alabama we were going to do something because we supposed not to care about the environment. But here is a graph, that shows some of those indicators that I was mentioning. The bars is the total data records by year, and the line that is continuous at the bottom is the number of groups, monitoring groups that have work on each one of those years, and the top line is the number of monitors. So as you can see, in the beginning of the first 10 years or so, we had a kind of a fast growth, and then it dwindled a little, but kind of stay in pretty good level, had a little drop in 2016 in terms of data. But monitors, you can see that they kind of have been consistent, and as well as groups. The number of groups, a little bit, below 100 groups every year, but is basically pretty consistent. So who's conducting this water monitoring? And this graph here shows quickly that in Water Watch, we categorize the groups in 3 types, in pure citizens, and groups that are, linked to an educator, or groups that are linked to a professional. And the 3 maps show more or less that. As you see, the blue area is for citizens. It's about a little more than half of the total groups that have worked with us, but they collect about 85% of the data. Educators, the orange one, it's only about 6% of the data collected by educators. And I tell you more why. It's because usually, they have few sites, and sometimes they go back and forth. This is some of the historic data by group. You can see, the graph on the top right is a lake group that since basically the late 90s, very consistent. The graph and the right at the bottom is an educator group that, they may have a really good start, but then there are reasons and they drop, and sometimes there are, many years that they don't collect. The professionals on the left, is consistent, although, not really big, because they are, focused on, monitoring some of the locations that they have just the interest for their work. What is happening, is also something that determines the activity and longevity of the groups. And we have, categorized them in, lake groups, stream groups, and coastal groups. And as you can see, the stream groups make the most, about 83% of them. But and they collect, close to half of the data. The lake groups are interesting because only 10% of the groups, but they collect 1/3 of the data. So again, usually lakes have, a bunch of sites around the lake, and they have more longevity. This is the data. Again, the lake group on the top right, consistent in the last over 30 years, basically. A coastal on the bottom right, and then a stream group on the left. Not a lot of activity, but also consistent. So we have longevity on all these groups, but the total activity is more variable. So what factors influence these trends in us? Okay, we think that there are some of these saturation of the market. Eventually we reach everybody that is interested in water, and there is nobody more. But that is just a theory. We have problems with losing monitors after so many years, because many of our groups are formed by retired people. So I mean, they are retired after 20 years, they probably cannot do it anymore. Fatigue, disillusionment, sometimes, they are fighting for something, and if it doesn't happen, they quit. Societal change is affecting a lot, the virtual world. Most people are now, I don't like to offend younger generations, but sometimes they are more into, electronics and virtual, and away from outdoors. So some are afraid to going outside. Relocating, some people, are really good monitors, but then they move to another location, and they stop, monitoring over here. And of course, a big one, funding. That's a big thing that will affect. So there are other factors that affect, moral resources, cultural resources, social organizational resources, and they all talk, by themselves. Is human resources. How many, people can you get, or if they stay, of course. And again, material resources is money, is property, is office space, is monitoring equipment, and the the funding going, you know, and the less of this that you can get. There are other barriers, definitely historical, social, cultural, you know, mistrust. People, you know, people find excuses for everything. So it's sometimes difficult to maintain some of these programs. But that's where we come to, you know, the things that we have found that have made maybe sustainable and long-term our program. You know, and that's good for everybody, we think. One, of course, is, you know, consistent attention to monitors. I mean, in our program, we have been trying to do that, you know, try to make offer workshops at the local level, provide support to the monitors, answer monitor questions, arrange for new workshops, attend meetings, you know, help them with interpreting their data. All of that, I think, it has been big, you know, to keep some of these groups going. And the data credibility, you know, and I think it's a big one. I was listening one of the previous webinars, and, you know, talk about that credibility. You know, we from the beginning, we focus on that. We try to follow EPA QA plan that is approved by EPA. And I think that, you know, gives the monitors, you know, a reason to do it, because they find that their data is going to be useful. A third one, online database. Definitely, you know, it has helped, you know, to have a user-friendly database that, you know, helps monitors to enter quickly, analyze their data, share their data, you know, present their data. And it's definitely something that I think every project needs. You know, we follow training of the trainer model. I think that has been big in the sense that, you know, a lot of these trainers can reach, you know, a broader areas. It's not all depending on the staff, you know, in an office. There is this type of model is much more cost and time efficient. You know, the trainers can go in different regions. They can be responding to monitors, supporting the monitors, offering workshops all over a larger area. Working closely with a non-governmental organization is also, you know, pretty important, we think, because working that way, these NGOs can help finding funding, you know, that help, you know, extend community-based activities. And finally, something that we got here, you know, we were fortunate to get institutional support, and that, I think, it helps because, well, it provides, you know, at least let's say some, you know, funding for continuous staff and maybe supplies. And I have seen this in other countries, you know, in Mexico, in Chile. I see that now many of the government organizations are, you know, beginning to support community-based monitoring, and we're talking in Mexico, all over the country. So final thoughts, you know, I guess there is no doubt that, you know, the mission goals of an organization, they influence who is going to participate. You know? But it's also important to consider the resources, of course, you know, the money, the having different resources to, you know, get all the activities that will limit, you know, if you don't have enough. Also, you know, unfortunately, geographical and socially, you know, diversity, you know, goes along with, you know, the disparity of resources. So, you know, that's why, you know, in some places here in Alabama and all over the world, you know, you can see that, you know, some programs may start and they, you know, vanish really quick. And yep, these disparities don't, you know, affect only water monitoring programs, but basically any other, you know, environmental programs or other programs in, you know, where, you know, volunteers are working. So that's it. Just 2 minutes. Right before, just a couple of thoughts, you know, before I give you the screen. I think the community-based or volunteer, you know, leaders, they have to be flexible because most collaborators, they will come from different backgrounds, different interests, and they have different tasks in their lives. You know, many join very, you know, enthusiastic, you know, but, you know, they turned to be just like flor de un día, we say in Spanish. It's only a spark. They are here today and gone tomorrow. So we have to work on many that come and they join for a long time. We have monitors that have been almost 20-25 years and they are still going. One of my big monitors over here is an 83-year-old lady, and she monitors about a dozen sites. To some she goes in a bicycle. So anyway, watershed stewardship is not a project, it's a way of life. So everybody should do it, and every sunrise is an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sergio. Trying to share this time the correct screen. This should be it. Okay, so we're moving on here directly to the second talk, and then we'll take questions, have plenty of time for questions afterwards. So please, everyone in the audience, if you have questions, you can already put them in the Q&A. Please use the Q&A for questions, and we will address some questions to both talks after the next talk. Today's second speaker in this session about lessons learned is Rasham Prajapati. He is a global ambassador for the Smartphone for Water project, and he's also actually a co-founder of this very interesting project that has been around for a couple of years now. With interesting ways how to use smartphone technology for citizen science or community-based data collections. Rasham is currently a PhD student at the University of Pittsburgh, but actually very currently is visiting back Nepal for fieldwork. So he's joining us on a very late hour, and we appreciate, Rasham, that you are here, and looking forward to hearing about your experiences from how to use smartphones for sustainable water monitoring.
So let me share my screen.
Yeah.
So, hello everyone. I'm Rajram from Smartphones for Water. I would like to thank the organizers for providing us this opportunity. So let's start. So Smartphones for Water is a non-profit research organization based in California, Chico. And we have our very first country chapter in Nepal, Smartphones for Water Nepal. So today I will be discussing more about our Nepal project. And we have been there since 2016, 2017. So it has already been more than like 7 years. So Smartphones for Water, our main focus is to generate hydrometeorological data in data scarce region like Nepal and other places of the world by using smartphone technology, leveraging citizen science approach and young researchers. So we use quite simple water monitoring techniques, and we use mobile technology to collect and transmit data from citizen scientists to our central data server. And all of our databases, data are open source and are open source in our website, and you can access all of our data till date from our website. Yeah. And we work with young researchers. So young researcher here means students, undergraduate and graduate students from different universities of Nepal currently. Yeah. So this is our study site. Nepal, it lies between two giant countries, China and India. And this map is actually Kathmandu Valley watershed map. And the red deltas, red points represents monitoring, rainfall monitoring sites from government. And the blue dots are the rainfall monitoring sites from citizen scientists in 2022. So what we actually do, or what have we been doing in Nepal since 2016, it's a summary I want to present. So we have been monitoring like various water parameters since 2017, 2016. So the first water parameter we are measuring is rainfall. So Nepal has a pretty unique weather. So we have like more than 80% of rainfalls, it occur in 5 months, starting from May to September. We call it monsoon months. So we have already been generating 32,000 plus rainfall data in Nepal for last 6 years. And you can see we use this recycled soda bottle as S4W rain gauze, low-cost rain gauze, which cost around $1 to prepare. And our citizen scientists collect daily rainfall data for those monsoon months. And next, we are also monitoring stream flow in headwaters. We do monthly monitoring through our young researchers, and we do seasonal monitoring campaign with the help of citizen scientists for the stream flow. And yes, we do have a network of more than 60 citizen scientists who are monitoring monthly groundwater level data in Kathmandu Valley. And our young researchers are helping us to monitor seasonal water quality monitoring in these monitoring wells. And besides that, we recently started suspended sediment monitoring with help of citizen scientists in various rivers in the Kathmandu Valley. So till date, we do have a network of more than 600 plus citizen scientists, and we are working with 100 plus young researchers who are students from different universities across Nepal. So the question here is, how do we recruit and train citizen scientists? So we recruit citizen scientists through these 4 major approaches. The first one is we leverage personal relationship. So our team members, through their personal relationship, we convince our friends, relatives to collect water data like rainfall, stream flow, water level. And the next approach is we use social media. We prepare some informative poster like call for citizen scientists, like you can see in the screen. And then we recruit interested applicants through social media. And the third one, which is we think that most effective one, is we organize outreach events in high schools and mostly in universities. So our focus is to recruit undergraduate and graduate students as citizen scientists in different monitoring campaigns. So we present them why water monitoring is important in water scarce regions like Nepal. And then we convince them to be a part of this project as citizen scientists. Yeah. And last but not the least, the approach is random site visits. So in those sites where we need data, but we couldn't find any citizen scientists from previous approaches, we visit the sites and convince the local people to be citizen scientists, share them the story, what would happen if we don't have data. And that's how we recruit citizen scientists in those places. And also we train them, either give them in-person training or virtual training. And we do have a lot of training material in our YouTube too. So here you can see the percentage of CS recruited. CS means citizen scientists recruited by different methods in past years. So based on the chart, you can see from 2018 to 2022, outreach and personal connections. These are the most effective ways to recruit CS. So Kathmandu Valley is urban center. So there are some rural places too, but most of the part is urban, and it's the capital city of Nepal. So we use site visit just to recruit citizen scientists in rural areas only, but it's very hard to find a good citizen scientist in those areas. So we later decided to replace those citizen scientist sites with automated tipping bucket rain gauges to get the data, because it was very hard for us to find citizen scientists, and it was very time consuming and resource consuming at the time. And we realized that CS recruitment through personal connection decreased over time due to saturation of network because of limited team members availability. Now we are pushing more on social media because we think it is a very time and cost efficient approach for CS recruitment. And also we have the benefit that it provides exposure to larger audience. So when you see at this stack bar plot, you can see in 2020 and 2021, the percentage of CS recruited by outreach is very low. It's because of the pandemic. We couldn't conduct any in-person outreach at the time, but we were able to do some virtual outreach through which we recruited a few citizen scientists in those years. So the next thing is motivation factors. So how we motivate citizen scientists to continue taking measurements throughout the project period, which is around like 5 or 6 months in a year. So the first thing we do is we categorize our CS into different categories, like regular CS who send regular measurements, occasional citizen scientists, and then irregular citizen scientists and inactive citizen scientists, and we follow up them on weekly basis, on monthly basis as per requirement. So this is one of the text messages that we used to send them weekly for the rainfall citizen scientist. We used to communicate, we are still communicating with all the citizen scientists through these text messages. And next approach for citizen scientist motivation is we provide a certificate of participation and appreciation for all the citizen scientists. And we do recognize very active citizen scientists as citizen scientist of the year or citizen scientist of the month, and provide them some awards and gift hampers. Besides that, we also publish the experience of our citizen scientists as citizen scientist stories in our newsletter, website, and social media. And also further, we organize on annual basis a citizen scientist celebration event annually, where all the citizen scientists, they share their experience. And also we take this event as an opportunity to disseminate information back to citizen scientists, which we generated from the data collected by those citizen scientists. And further, we also use payment as a motivation factors in some cases, and we do organize several social media campaigns, as you can see one here, to motivate citizen scientists to continue measurement. Yeah, so here we can see some citizen scientist performance chart. So as I said before, we categorize citizen scientists based on data regularity. So regular CS here means those citizen scientists who sends more than 25 data in a month. And inactive CS means those citizen scientists who sends less than 5 or 10 data in a month. So monsoon months, our project period in a year starts from May and ends in September. So for regular CS, you can see the number of regular citizen scientists increases from May till July. And July is that month, peak monsoon month, where we get maximum amount of rainfall and which have maximum number of rainy days. So people are more excited and they send many measurements in regular measurements in this period. But after July, you can see there is a sudden drop in regular number of regular CS. Whereas in case of inactive CS, you can see it keeps increasing as we move like further. So, and similar pattern can be observed in other years too. So you can see in the box plot, like in y-axis, it's number of measurement. So you can see similar pattern. And obviously in 2020 and 2021, due to this pandemic, we have very less number of measurements in those periods. Yeah. So after 2018 monsoon expedition, we did a project review and we realized that there are two major conclusions. The first one is that payment appears to be a very effective motivation for citizen scientists. And the second but contrasting conclusion is that, so even without monetary incentives, there were many citizen scientists who were regularly sending us data. And we realized that those citizen scientists were actually students from different science background universities. So we then decided to discontinue monetary incentives, and we just decided to continue pushing students as citizen scientists. And we started collaborating with different academic institutes. And then, so we started, and then we organized several research campaigns, trainings for those young researchers, students on data analysis, and we provided them opportunity to present their findings in conferences, in national and regional level conferences. So in countries like Nepal, one of the major issue in universities is that university doesn't have a strong research component in their academic curriculum. So we try to help fill that gap by empowering these young researchers and by building the research capacity. So in 2020, we established a formal organization called Young Researcher Circle, which is now a network of more than 100 citizens, 100 young researchers from different parts of the country. Yeah, so in summary, so these are the major lesson learned I just listed here. So two-way communication between citizen scientists and professional scientists is crucial. And we should try to make the overall process from recruitment, training of citizen scientists, data collection, communication, and feedback as simple as possible. And to sustain involvement of young researchers, which is like a medium between professional scientists and citizen scientists, collaboration with academic institution is very important. And obviously, in data scarce regions or countries like Nepal, data generated by citizen scientists are more valuable. Yeah. And collaborating with government agencies obviously will help to sustain these kinds of efforts and provide more significant impact at larger scale. Yeah. So we have this fellowship for interested students. For this year, we started this fellowship this year. This is just for graduate students from these developing countries. Yeah, thank you. I can take questions in discussion. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thanks a lot for this interesting talk. And I think I've had two very interesting talks about how to this issue how to sustain participation and the different challenges we are facing. And I think all of us who are working with citizen science can resonate with these experiences, and it's really important questions that we are all struggling with. So I assume there are a lot of thoughts and questions. At least I have a lot of thoughts and questions. So I would encourage you to put that in the Q&A so that we can address those questions, and you can ask both presenters or focus to one. If you focus one, then please put that in your question. So while you're hopefully typing in questions, I can start with one question. You both raised this issue of how it's important to also have some formal government follow kind of background. Now I'm wondering, is it kind of always is based on your experience, is it necessarily a good thing, or could it also be harmful if the citizen science project is seen as a governmental issue? So if you have the support from agencies, potentially it could also be seen, well, that people think that, well, then it's not anymore more so free, so that could also kind of discourage people to contribute. So can you have your thoughts? Is it good if the government or the agencies are behind supporting with such projects? Yeah.
I guess I can start. Yeah, I feel like it's a good sign. And for what I have seen in some of the places we had opportunity to work in other countries, and even here in Alabama, we had support from the environmental agency for about 20 years, and yes, there were a few citizens that may have seen that a little. So you're playing with the government. I think we were able to keep that impartiality, where the majority of citizens, the majority of volunteers and monitors, they see the program as something that actually pushes the agency to do things. If they find a problem, well, we're doing this collection, there is a problem, you should fix it. And we have seen a lot of that is helping. I think in Mexico is going way beyond, because over there, the program, contacted directly with the federal government. So they went through all the, doing side-by-side testings to make sure that the citizens are going to collect, credible data. And now it's being piloted in some of the states, but the idea is that eventually it's going to go, nationwide. So that's pretty good. In Chile, we just started, and we just heard that at least at the regional, level, they are in talks about how the state or the government agencies are going to look at this citizen data and use it, and know that it's good.
So involvement of government or contribution of government in citizen science projects, I think it's important. But in the case of area where we are working, so most of the government agencies, I must say, they have this question toward us or citizen science projects about data credibility. And sometimes they point toward us about like these kinds of projects are just creating noises in the regular database, so that we have been facing. So, but we know that we have proven from our publications about like the scientific credibility or reliability of these data sets, the citizens generated data sets. But the good thing is slowly the opinion of government agencies are slowly changing, because citizen science is now expanding from all dimensions, like spatially and from other dimensions too. So, but we know that projects are temporary, like our projects is also temporary because we are being funded by some external agencies, and it's not a long-term project. We know that. So we have issue for long-term continuation without support of government. I don't think that's possible. And as our other speaker mentioned, our other presenter mentioned, that government has that power of scalability, because if they think that this is the right one, they can give that a push to a national level or sometimes to a regional level with intergovernment collaboration. So they will have higher impact if they realize that this is what we need. So I think we are always in that phase trying to convince government that this is what is required. Mostly in the case of data scarce regions, it has more impact than other part of the world. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. We got some questions in Q&A. Before going to those, I wanted to ask Sergio, could you say a few words about how the Alabama Water Watch started? I mean, it was kind of many years ago, long before a lot of the other citizen science projects started, at a time where technology was not the smartphones were not around, so more challenging. Could you say something how it started? And also, you showed that the number of groups is pretty constant, but could you say something? Is there how much of fluctuation is there? Are it the same groups, or is there kind of changing groups?
Well, yes, thank you for the questioning. Yeah, when we started, basically it was when, in the early 90s with, when EPA, offered the 319 money that, was available to every state to do more environmental education, to address non-point source pollution. So that's where we started, and yep, there were no internet in those days. We had to adjust. We had to. We went through, doing Excel spreadsheets to, do something better. But yeah, so that was, I guess, the first one. Well, the second one on the groups. Yeah, there is a change. We have over the years we have worked with about 360 groups, and believe me, some groups have been are still there from the beginning. We're talking, river groups that have gone since the 1993, 94, lake groups that have been from that for 25, 30 years. And there have been many groups that come and go. As I mentioned, some of the educator groups, sometimes it's a science teacher that is engaged in a school, in a high school, in a college, and they do pretty good. But if they move, the program goes. So we have been trying to work on that and see how so we keep that continuity. Something that I didn't mention is that lately, well, initially we work basically with adults, okay, with volunteer monitors, but we have been in the last 7 years working, strongly with the program that here in the US is the 4-H, where is a state program or national program that works with kids up to 18-year-old to make them better citizens. And through that program, we have been really successful, I feel, because we have reached over 40,000 people. So I feel that is probably a good way to follow. Actually, we are in talks with Costa Rica because they want to do something similar, and in other countries they want to do the same. They don't have these established programs. I mean, 4-H here is 100-year-old.
Thanks a lot. Well, now to the questions in the Q&A. So interesting question from Teresa on how important is it that the monitoring sites are accessible, or is they remote? Oftentimes, I think we are most interested in remote places, but there are fewer people. So how, I guess I'll address both of you, how important is it that sites are accessible? How challenging is it to have sites in remote areas?
Yeah, I can go first on this. So I think it's a very important question, and we have been dealing with this challenge since quite long. Yeah, the site has to be accessible in order to have a citizen scientist do regular monitoring in those sites. We think it because in some cases, when the site is too remote or too far from the citizen scientist residence, then there is this lack of motivation factor, because it will extract some more time from his or her daily schedule. And if the citizen scientist is not motivated enough to contribute that amount of time and effort, it will be very hard for us to get data. Yeah. So in our case, so in rainfall monitoring campaign, we don't have that issue, because we just provide rain gauge to the citizen scientist and they can measure the rainfall from their home. So that's good. And for groundwater monitoring too, we do similar approach, because they can monitor groundwater level from the wells nearby, which is easily accessible in our case. But in case of stream water or stream water level, it's an issue, because most of the stream monitoring sites are quite far from those places or their residents. So we had to provide monetary incentives in those cases to motivate those citizen scientists. So I think it's quite important for the sites to be accessible for regular and long-term monitoring. Yeah.
I can add a little bit to that, and on the site monitoring site, we have something that we call a class. Monitoring sites should have class, and that means that they should be convenient, legal, accessible, strategic, and safe. Okay. So, and basically with the most of the volunteers here, we let them pick up the site that they have interest in, and that has those kind of 5 conditions. Some of those remote sites sometimes are difficult. I know that they are interesting. Here, for example, something that we started last 3 or 4 years is we had a partnership with the US Forest Service, and we have been having this program going in the national forests, which are kind of remote, that are difficult to access. But the USFS provides some of the monitoring. So we had very successful thing going on in remote locations, through that program. I feel like, in Peru, we have a case where, I mean, if they are monitoring, way up in the Puna, and there is not a lot of facility to get there, the programs usually have to, help with transportation to go in and monitor some of those sites. And I could go quickly and address the other question if you allow me. Is
yeah, But maybe I just repeat it so that it's also in the recording and that everyone is aware of that question. So the other question of Catherine Barrett is the advice for groups working in larger catchments which span over states or countries or any kind of political boundaries. I think that we all face these problems often, and so if you could address that, that would be very valuable.
Yeah, quickly, basically, some of you probably know the geography of the US, but we are Alabama Water Watch, and believe me, in the first years, the largest group of monitors was in Rome, Georgia. That's the other state. And that's because we share the CUAHSI River and there is a big lake over there. So there was a big interest. And the monitors, I mean, the watershed don't have boundaries, so the monitors get together because of the water is their interest. So we have had no problem with that here. We had all along the line, the Chattahoochee River, there are groups that work on both sides, and we have to even with the Georgia program, we have an agreement where some of our monitors can be certified in either state because we share some of those things, and it happens also I had opportunity to be in Peru last year, and we had a big meeting in the border with Bolivia, because together there is a big problem of interest with a mine that is in a watershed that affects both countries. So they are getting together to monitor, so they can at least set what is the baseline before the mine starts, and hopefully have less problems. But yeah, it can be worked.
What is your experience with advice for multi-political boundaries?
So we don't have any experience about like same watershed in different political boundaries, but we have been working in like different watersheds in different countries. So yeah, I think I will just support what Sergio just said, as we don't have such experience till that.
And Sergio, because you mentioned Mexico before, here for me personally, being based in San Diego at the moment, there is this large some catchments going over the border, which kind of in the US often the borders are drawn just as like a line. Is there any kind of, do you know, are you aware of any kind of citizen science collaborations across borders between the US and Mexico?
As far as I know of our program, there is Global Water Watch over there. Yeah. We had some groups going on in Chihuahua that is near the border, but we haven't had any like group meetings where people from both countries are working on the same watershed. Actually, in the south part, in the Guatemalan border side, yes, there is a little bit more of collaboration because there is a river that starts in Guatemala, crosses into Mexico, and they have been trying to monitor it because actually it's probably the only one of the main rivers over there that is not dammed, so they are trying to keep it away.
So one other question that came to my mind. Rasham, you mentioned that money can be a good motivator. And this is, of course, a very tricky question because that makes the question is how much money is needed. And so, well, the two questions are if money is a motivator, how much and how is that done in a logistic way? The other is this fear that once you start paying, that if you then stop paying, then people are, it might be more harmful in that way. So is there any kind of advice or thoughts on should there be a payment or should it be other ways of encouragement? And I guess there's no simple answer, but it was interesting about your thoughts there.
Yeah, it's a very tricky question, and it's a challenge for us to decide on whether to not continue paying. So in 2017 and 2018, we had like many like citizen scientists to whom we paid like certain amount of money for like their data. But later we realized that there are some people who are voluntarily doing these things without taking any monetary incentives. And so we had to make this decision whether to continue this payment motivation or whether to pause this thing, right? Like at the time. And then at the time, we decided to pause the monetary incentives because we realized that the amount of money that's going as monetary incentives was quite high. And also people were not motivated about the data and about the science. They were just motivated about the money at the time. And we realized that their data had some kind of issue because they were just trying to send more and more data and try to earn more and more money. So we realized those kinds of citizen scientists are not doing the right thing at the time. They are just working for money and they value less to the science and our citizen science approach. So we then completely shift and made a U-turn at the time and try to motivate more volunteer citizen scientists at the time. So yeah, the amount actually, it depends, I think, on place, on people. Like at some sites, even today, we are paying some citizen scientists because of the remoteness of the site and because we cannot travel to their sites frequently. So I think based on remoteness and availability of people to monitor those sites, we figure out how much money is a good amount for that particular site. So it's, I think, case by case basis. Yeah.
Okay, good. Sergio, do you want to add something? Have you ever paid citizen science to collect data?
Well, I tell you, whenever we started here, I guess we did a big mistake. Yes, in the beginning we had, we had some money. We had, we would buy kits and have a stack of kits, so people got trained, and you can take a kit and go, and they never tested, So we lost a bunch of kits that way. So in a way, we got to the point where, I mean, the citizen scientist, the volunteer, has to invest some. Mm-hmm. So we went through a program where, the monitor that is sending data, they can get free chemicals, free reagents, monitoring supplies. So that helps to keep some of that continuity. In other countries, I have seen that, one thing, the cultural, side of volunteering sometimes is not as, strong. And of course, more people down there, they have to, sometimes find the food for their day, so they have to work. So whenever you have an incentive, sometimes it has worked. We have done it with some projects, but overall, I feel like maybe, if it's not monetary, the reward is better. I mean, maybe have a lunch or have a party after monitoring, but just a remuneration may hurt more.
Party sounds always good. Maybe as we're approaching the top of the hour, as a follow-up question on the motivation, Rajam, could you say, in the smartphones for water, you have a lot of different variables that people monitor. Can you say something about which variables are people are more excited? So is say water levels people are more excited about monitoring water levels than rain gauges or rainfall, or is it the other way around? Can you say something which variable is most people like most to monitor?
In our case, I will say that, we typically do 3 types of monitoring. There is water chemistry, and bacteriological, looking at fecal coliform, E. coli, and stream biomonitoring, looking at the macroinvertebrates. And I will say that, adults, some adults, I think that they'll get more excited if there is E. coli in their water. Okay? Looking for it. Oh, it's E. coli. It's clean. It's like, come on. But kids, younger, I think they enjoy doing the stream biomonitoring, looking at macroinvertebrates. So even though all three combine better. We promote all three, and they of course do better, provide better information. Yeah, so I think that's what they like more.
Okay.
And it addresses more problems, like, you know, hey, they find something in the city, there's a broken sewage pipe, so they know that they can, you know, maybe fix a problem kind of quick.
Okay.
But there was one question on the about the sharing of the data, the citizens data. I responded, but I don't know. But I say that in our case, it is alabamawaterwatch.org is our website, and everybody can see the data there.
Yeah. Okay. Oshan, can you say something about what people in your projects like most to observe?
Yeah, so so we basically monitor like rainfall, groundwater level, and stream water level. So streams are not good in Kathmandu. It's a major urban center, and streams are mostly like seaways are mostly mixed directly with streams. So people don't want to go in streams. So like in the downstream mostly. In the upstream, it's good, but there are like very less people there in the hills. So streams, stream flow or stream water level, it's least preferred because the sites are very remote and it's not that healthy sites. Yesterday, I have been to my site to install one census, and I would never want to go back there till required. So this is the least preferred sites. And people are more fascinated by rainfall monitoring because we have this very like handy and portable rain gauge like we developed from the soda bottle. So people wants to share it in their social media that they just took a measurement and they are contributing to science kind of thing. So I think rainfall is one of the most popular water variable in our project. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, and thanks a lot to both of you for your interesting presentations and this very interesting Q&A. It's just kind of very valuable, I think, for all of us to hear your thoughts on motivation, and in a way, it reassures us. We are all struggling with similar problems, but it's good to exchange these ideas, so to test different approaches and to exchange these experiences. That we're now on the top of the hour, so the hour went by fast. We have one more seminar in this series next week. We'll talk about how to use the citizen science-based data that is collected, how to use that in hydrological models. And I hope to see all of you again here next week, same time as always. See you and have a good week. Thanks.
Thank you for the invitation. Have a good day.
Yeah.